Well, ladies and gentlemen, it wouldn't be like wargaming to introduce a tank that everyone has to purchase if you want to be able to obtain, that's super broken, at least in my experience of playing, and that's of course the new event that Wargaming have released, where you can get a massive 60% off of a tank that costs you £70 to begin with and will only cost you £30. So what is this tank? Well, of course, it's the brand new M47 Iron Arnie, and this is a vehicle that I was able to get my hands on and of course do a little bit of testing. And given the title of this video, given the introduction, this tank is very strong in the current meta of World of Tanks, because it has both speed, it has unbelievable armor for a tank that is like this, which makes this thing super strong, in my opinion. And it has a fantastic gun, probably one of the best guns I've used on a kind of heavy medium, essentially, because that's what it is. It is not a traditional medium tank whatsoever. You play it more like a super aggressive heavy tank, and that is where the Iron Arnie comes into clutch. Now, one thing that you'll note if you do end up getting your hands on this, or if you're playing up against it, is that it has unbelievable speed of the AP rounds. Now, these AP rounds go at 1400 meters a second. Now, you might think, what the hell does that mean in the game? Well, the faster the round, the faster it hits your target, the less lead you have to give, and so the more consistent damage you can hit, especially if you're shooting at targets at longer ranges where you may not have to lead as much. And that's ultimately the Iron Arnie's strength for at least one of them. And you'll notice that within this game we managed to bounce an E4 hit, which pretty much every other medium in the game probably wouldn't have been able to do. We've also managed to pick up 2,900 damage, and we're sat in front of about 6 tanks. They're all firing at us pretty much, other than the chieftain who keeps exposing themselves. You've got pinpoint accuracy. I believe the standard accuracy of this tank is 0.36 because of course, and you've also then got 400 alpha. You can bounce things like Jaegeroos because yes, this is a medium tank in name only, and of course we've bounced 4,280 damage so far. Now, we're getting a little bit unlucky with the accuracy within this game, but it's not a big problem, and at this point it's just about trying to get as much damage as possible against all of these opponents who are just kind of sat there waiting for us to farm their hit points. And it seems like when I play this vehicle that it is just a farm fest. You can just go in, you can secure the damage on loads of different opponents, and you really don't have to think at all, and that's why I love it and why I think this tank is super powerful. And you can see here we're literally sat out in front of tier 10 and tier 9 and tier 8 tanks. Of course, this is a tier 10 vehicle, so it's not like the PC version, which is the tier 8. This is far more powerful and definitely a tank I'd rather have in the garage over the Iron Arnie on PC. And the Iron Arnie on PC is actually very good as well, so it's like a double whammy. Not only is it tier 10 and can block so much damage, you've seen here, it's very rare on console and playing super heavies even that you'd be able to block 5,800 damage, but because of the spaced armor that this tank gets, which nullifies heat armor essentially, then yeah, it's very powerful. Now, you're seeing here, of course, we take an aggressive approach towards the 60 TP. I'm hoping to get some damage on him. Of course, the round that we were hoping actually ends up bouncing. For some reason, the HMH M51 decides to YOLO down, which was a terrible, and I mean a terrible idea. We're trying to go for the track, don't manage to get it, and of course now he's given up with us because he's just never going to be able to pen our front of our armor. Now, I know that he's trying to hit our teammates, so I'm like, you know what, nah, I actually kind of like the IS-7 on our team, so I'm gonna avoid him being able to take a shot at him and also get some extra damage. Of course, 6,600 done within this game and 6,600 blocked essentially, and at this point we've got to be a little bit careful. I'm trying to go up and trying to put some shots onto the 60 TP. I don't know what is in base, or at least I do, but I don't want to get hit by any of them, so we're going to stay back down here. I don't want to get hit by the artillery because, you know, artillery being as they are right now, not particularly very fun either. So we've managed to pick up 7,500 combined damage, which is a good result. And at this point, I'm just thinking, you know what, maybe we should go after the 60 TP. We know that there is a medium that could be a pain, and I'm just trying to get some extra damage. Now the medium appears to have come round, which he lands a successful shot into the side of us, and then at this point I'm just trying to get some damage on the 60 TP, which of course is going awfully, and I'm just trying to get that final shot into him. I'm trying to angle towards the T95, and the IS-7 decides to push us right out, which is perfect. Thank you very much. After saving him, probably wasn't worth saving, but there we go. And of course we do get taken out, finally having received 7,000 block damage and also dealing a ton of damage as well. But let's have a look at the final result, because we did actually end up winning it, and let's jump forward. It was a very long-winded way of winning the game, but yeah, essentially we did end up winning it, and you can see the victory screen right now, and of course we don't come top, and in fact it's a striker, the kind of Kanonenjagdpanzer 105, but come in second with 7,619 damage, 1,600 base experience, 1,019 assistance with 6,560 blocked in a completely balanced, non-pay-to-win premium tank. And of course, we didn't even manage to get a first class. That's probably because there are very few people who have this vehicle right now, as they're probably waiting to pick it up since it's very expensive, and I was lucky enough to be able to get my hands on it to try it out. But let's take a look at one more replay before we end up this video, and talk a bit more about Wargaming's decision-making process when it comes to a lot of these new premiums that they keep making. So the next replay we have is on Cliff, and this is a pretty bog standard game on Cliff, but not in a bog standard tank, and so we're going to be able to be very aggressive, and that's what I love about the M47 Iron Arnie, and why I was able to average, I believe, 4,500 damage over the course of the games that we played in it, which was of course pretty decent for a tier 10. You know, the upper echelon players will probably see about 5,500 combined, 5,500 actual damage every game. The amount of damage I was dealing was 4,500 actual damage. Of course, not forgetting that you can get assistance in this tank, because it does have okay view range. You've got 410 meters as standard, but yeah, overall it's a really good tank, and I think it's very powerful within the current game. Now we nicely land a shot onto the T100 LT, which is of course probably not possible in most of the tanks in the game, since it is a very fast round that allows you to get shots where you might not have thought it would be otherwise possible. So at this point, you know, I'm pretty confident in the armor. I've played quite a few games. I know that the armor is, to all intents and purposes, probably one of the best armors in the game at this moment in time, just because it's very hard to pen, even if you know where the weak points are, which are the cupola. If you're using gun depression in this tank, it's even worse. For the opponents, that is, not you. And so you're able to just sit there and just farm up opponents. Now, I noticed that there's an E5 on my right, which could be a real pain if he does take out my teammates and then ends up targeting me. So I'm going to back up, I'm going to try and help out. And of course, as I'm doing that, the E5 or the TNH finishes off the Iron Rain on my team. And now the Ragnarok is sat out in the open. Don't quite know what was going through the brain of that player, but he's continually still sat there. I'm not sure if he was tracked or something, but then he proceeds to continue to stop, obviously trying to unload, but that was a terrible decision against this tank, and we've managed to once again block 2,500 damage in a very short period of time. Now the E5 on the enemy team seems to know that you can pen this thing, and he is trying his best to do that. So we do know that it can be penned. You know, people who hit in the cupola, that shot right there from the E5 hit the cupola. So, you know, it is possible to be able to get penned quite reliably by people who know the weak points. But at this point, pretty much even if you know the weak points, they're very minor. And if you don't hit them, it is just 100% a bounce. For the most part. Now, there are a few areas in which you could probably come out with some amazing results, and where you can basically end up just dealing so much damage that your opponents just cannot deal with you, and every single time that they take a shot at you, they're probably gonna bounce, or at least have a good chance of bouncing. So you can very much rely upon your armor model, and that's what I love with these sorts of tanks. Now we go in for the aggressive approach on the Leopard PTA, who's kind of gone around and ended up back in the garage somehow when trying to out-traverse me, and yeah, 4,000 damage done. The IS-4 in the enemy team thinks, don't worry, it's only an M47 Iron Arnie, I'm just going to YOLO him, and yeah, he's seeing that maybe that wasn't the best idea, but he does manage to pen there, and I'm pretty sure that the penetrating shot that landed onto us was actually down to the fact that it hit the kind of the side armor. Now the side armor of this thing is a M47 pattern, so it's not particularly great. You can get penned very easily in the side, and that's where people will start to realize, I think, over the next coming weeks about this vehicle, that you have to aim and try and get any element of the side. There is some heat protection against anyone hitting the side, but ultimately it's still very, very good, and you can still side scrape. It just means that some people with good aim or know about the weak points will be able to pen you. It's kind of like a Super Pershing on some heavily juiced up stuff that has basically got armor instead of the Super Pershing, and a lot less weak points than the Super Pershing. So a very, very reliable tank, and one that is a joy to play, and unfortunately is hidden behind, or not hidden, blatantly shown in your face behind a big paywall that will cost £30 to £35 if you want to be able to purchase it with the 60% discount that you can get if you manage to get 50 points yourself, and the whole community managed to get that too. Of course, in the background here you can see me trying to find the M47 and show you how much damage we averaged with this tank as just a kind of final there. 4,456 damage done on average with a very, very good survival as well. But of course, since it's new, the mark percentage is very low, so or very hard to actually get. So there we go. Hopefully that showcases the M47 Iron Arnie. Unfortunately, a bit broken, and I don't really know what to say. I love it, and I think it's super powerful, and hopefully you guys will be able to get it. I mean, don't go out of your way to spend £40 on a game like this, but yeah, just keep your wits about you, and of course try and go for the side armor if you see this thing in game, or the cupola on the top of the vehicle, and you'll do okay. Other than that, I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and I hope the M47 Iron Arnie doesn't come and haunt you in your dreams. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.